What is up, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at the 10 best-selling tech to ever done be sold. So first up, we have the most sold smartwatch ever. Go ahead and take a guess. This one's easy. Did you guess the Apple Watch?
Bitch, you guessed it!
Congratulations.
You was right.
Apple's extremely overpriced timepiece has sold somewhere around 12 million units, which literally destroys all of the other sales from other companies, including Motorola, Samsung, LG, Xiaomi, Microsoft, Pebble, Sony, and literally everyone else. While Apple has been tearing it up in the smartwatch game, recently all those other companies that I just named are starting to sell more units, and Apple's watch is on the decline with units selling less and less, resulting in Apple owning less and less of the market. In fact, a year ago, Apple owned a whopping 72% of the smartwatch market, and now they own a much less insane 47%, which is definitely a lot less than what they had before, but still plenty above all of their competitors. Next up is the most sold video game in the world, and a few of you guys will probably know this one already, but just in case you didn't, it's Tetris. Good, classic, old Tetris. And I'm pretty sure everyone on Earth has played this game before, and its amount sold is absolutely crazy as well. So this game has sold almost 500 million paid copies, which were sold, which blows everything under it out of the water, which includes Minecraft, of course, in second at 106 million, Wii Sports at 82 million, and finally GTA 5 at 65 million. Tetris first appeared in Russia on June 6, 1984, and was later sent over to the US, where it was published for the IBM PC and Commodore 64 first. Now Tetris is basically on everything. No matter what platform you switch to, no matter how obsolete it is or whatever, you can't escape Tetris. Tetris will find you and it will kill you. Third, we have the best-selling cell phone ever, which is the Nokia 1100. This indestructible brick has sold a crazy 250 million units since its launch in late 2003. As well, Nokia's billionth phone sold was one of these right here. It went out to some random dude in Nigeria in 2005. The way this phone became so popular was by aiming itself mainly at developing countries, as well as users in general who didn't feel like they needed a bunch of extra features besides calling and texting. Cool fact, this phone can last up to 400 hours between charges, but considering its insane simplicity, it doesn't come as too much of a surprise. Next is the most downloaded mobile app of all time, which includes downloads from all mobile OSs. If you hadn't guessed it already, it's Facebook. It's always Facebook. With billions of multi-platform downloads and a spot as the #1 most used social network, with over 1,100,000,000 total users as of July 2016, Facebook once again takes the W. As far as users go though, YouTube is catching up with only about 100 million users less. I don't really think I need to explain anything here. You all know what Facebook is. And if you don't, then you've probably been living under a rock for the past 20 years. Wait, no. If you don't know what Facebook is, you probably are a rock. Fifth up is the best-selling computer of all time. And if you know this one, then, I don't know, man. It's not a MacBook Pro, it's not an iMac, it's not a MacBook Air. It's the Commodore 64. That sounds a tiny bit familiar. That's right, it's not the prettiest, but at this time, this thing was a freaking beast. Its specs were far more superior than its competitors, which were the Apple II and Atari 800. Part of its success is due to the fact that it was sold in retail stores and not just in technology-only stores like all the other competitors. This 8-bit machine, created by Commodore International, was introduced in January of 1982 and sold anywhere from 12.5 to 17 million units. Its introductory price was $595, adjusted for inflation, and that's about $1,500 in today's money. There were a total of around 10,000 commercial software products for this thing, and it eventually ended up with a successor named the Commodore 128, which continued on to sell a good amount of units as well. In the number 6 spot, we have the PlayStation 2, which was the best-selling video game console ever. Released in 2000, the PS2 has sold over 155 million units since. Sony even holds the record for the second most sold console as well, with the PlayStation 1, which Nintendo's Wii isn't too far behind from, only selling under a million units less. It's basically a fact now that PlayStations sell more units than Xboxes, but it's pretty disappointing to see the PS4 with around 40 million units sold, while the Xbox One is struggling to even hit 10 million. I'll admit that the Xbox One did have some problems with it when it first came out, but now everything is fixed and I really enjoy using mine, and I think it's an absolutely awesome console. Anyway, back to the PS2, we're freaking getting sidetracked over here. This thing has a huge array of games to choose from. The total amount of games released comes close to about 3,900, compared to the current PS4's library of about 1,140. As well, 1.5 billion copies of PS2 games were sold all around the world. Making its appearance in the next spot is the most sold handheld gaming system, which goes out to the Game Boy with a total of 118 million units sold. Who can forget the Game Boy? This iconic handheld was first released in 1989, and from that point on had a few variations with extra features launched up until 1998. From that point on, it was the DS's time to shine. This 8-bit handheld, obviously created by Nintendo, proved to be the very best like no one ever was, beating all its competition, which included the Sega Game Gear, Atari Lynx, and Turbo Express. When it was released in the United States months after its original release in Japan, it sold millions within the first few weeks. Now up is the best-selling electric car, which goes to the Tesla Model S, which cost about $64,000 to $70,000 and up, and has sold over 26,000 units. Tesla has also sold the most electric cars overall as well. This car was originally released in 2012 and is still being manufactured today with different versions. Depending on what version of the car you buy though, the battery could last you anywhere from 230 to 253 miles on one charge, which I think is pretty freaking awesome. Even cooler than that is the autopilot mode, which all models newer than October 9th, 2014 possess. When put into autopilot, the car uses all of its cameras and sensors to drive itself without assistance down highways. The feature will keep your car at an appropriate speed, make lane changes, stay in the center of your lane, and predict vehicle behavior. As well, the car can parallel park itself. When driving, the car can also sense and alert you if any objects or other cars are getting dangerously close to you. While doing all this autonomous stuff, Tesla requires that you keep both hands on the wheel at all times and stay aware of your surroundings just in case something goes wrong or you need to take manual control of everything. For the number 9 spot, we have one similar to number 3, which is the best-selling cell phone ever, but instead now we have the best-selling smartphone, something with a touchscreen and increased capabilities. This one once again goes to another Nokia phone, which happens to be the Nokia 5230. This little thing came out in 2009 and sold 150 million units. It featured an itty-bitty 3.2 resistive touchscreen and had support for 3G internet, as well as featured an SD card and stylus. One weird thing about this phone is that it didn't have any Wi-Fi capabilities at all. Finally, in the number 10 spot, we have the best-selling operating system, or OS, ever. This one goes out to all the Android fans out there. That's right, Android is the top-selling OS in the world, with over 1.5 billion devices worldwide running it. That absolutely destroys all of its other competitors' numbers. Android was bought by Google in 2005, and the first version of the OS was released in 2008. Since then, Android has received tons of updates with new features being added all the time. Version 1.0 and 1.1 went unnamed, but after that, Android's updates became famous for being named after sugary treats and desserts. The order of the versions are Cupcake, Donut, Eclair, Froyo, Gingerbread, Honeycomb, Ice Cream Sandwich, Jelly Bean, Kit Kat, Lollipop, Marshmallow, which is the current version for most devices, and Nougat, which will be arriving in the very soon future. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more awesome stuff like this. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.